When you come to Houston, you're checking in with certain people.
Mr. Prince.
Yes, sir. You got to check in, say
Joe
hi.
don't got to check in.
I'm not in that business. I say hi.
If you think about him, here's a clown. Like, I love the hip-hop culture.
You know what's a sucker to me? A sucker is a nigga who pick who he fight with.
Right.
Like if you see it and you go, I'm not going because this.
I won't fuck with him, but I'll fuck with this one.
Yeah, I think I can take him.
Right.
You want to fight the nigga you think you can beat.
50 Cent just walked straight into the lion's den, and he's not backing down. Houston used to be Jay Prince's kingdom, but now 50's planting his flag. No permission, no check-in, and what he just exposed about Jay Prince's so-called protection game might be the end of everything. But here's the wildest part. This isn't just about rap beef. There's extortion, dice games, keys to the city, and maybe even a setup that cost someone their life. This war between two legends is getting deadly, so buckle up. This beef didn't start with a diss track, it started with a move, one that shook up the entire Houston power structure. See, in most cities, when a rapper relocates, nobody bats an eye, but when 50 Cent moved his empire from New York to Houston, Jay Prince felt it like an earthquake, because this wasn't just relocation, it was invasion. Jay Prince had built Houston like a fortress. For decades, artists had to go through him, whether they wanted protection, access, or just peace of mind. The unwritten rule was simple. You want to eat in Houston, you check in with the king, and Jay Prince crowned himself a long time ago.
There is what you call a brownie point to be able to have us as friends. You know what I mean? I don't want to impose or force myself to embrace nobody.
But 50, he don't kneel for anybody. He didn't check in. He didn't ask permission. He didn't even show up quietly. Instead, he started moving like a boss, signing deals, building his brand, hosting festivals, and putting boots on the ground, like a general invading enemy turf. And Jay Prince, allegedly, he didn't waste time. Word is, he sent his guys to confront 50, told him straight up, this city ain't free. Behind the scenes, rumors swirled about backdoor meetings, threats, and requests for cash. But 50, he didn't flint.
You know, a lot of shit I wouldn't have done if I would have known better. So, you know, with that combination of wanting that for myself, wanting that for my loved ones, then it's only right to like extend that invitation.
He made it crystal clear. I got my own security. I don't need you. And when Jay Prince tried to enforce what many called a no-fly zone, 50 turned the tables. Instead of backing down, he went public. He started clowning Jay Prince on Instagram, making light of the entire checking-in culture, mocking the extortion rumors, and daring him to make a move. It wasn't just petty, it was strategic. 50 was dragging the boss of Houston into his own arena, the spotlight. And here's the thing about the spotlight. Once you're in it, people start digging. They start asking questions Jay Prince doesn't like answering. Like what really happens during those infamous dice games, or what checking in really means for outsiders. But we'll get to that later, because before it got deadly, before the whispers turned into headlines, this feud was still simmering beneath the surface. And the real plot twist? 50's reason for coming to Houston wasn't just to dodge New York taxes, it was personal, and it had everything to do with power. Power in business, power in culture, power in the streets. And for the first time in years, Jay Prince wasn't the only one holding the keys. So now the chessboard was set. Two titans locked in a silent war, one trying to hold on to his crown, the other rising fast and daring anyone to stop him. But it was only a matter of time before someone made the first loud move. In 50, he doesn't whisper, he detonates. Next, we're diving into why 50 really moved to Houston. Because it wasn't just the money, it was a message, and it hit harder than anyone expected.
First of all, like every time I've experienced Houston, like when I was out here, I ran into random acts of kindness. Like the people have been good to me. You know what I'm saying? So it's one of the places that I'm like, man, or maybe Houston, like Houston or Miami popped into my head at that point. The pandemic, the way they dealt with the pandemic in New York City, it was wow. Like it was like they kept it closed.
Like shut the whole city
Everything was like, it was like, and it was so long that I felt like, wait, the rest of the world is back.
At first glance, 50 Cent's move to Houston looked like a smart business decision. Lower taxes, new markets, fresh opportunities, but the deeper you look, the more strategic and confrontational it starts to feel. He didn't just rent a condo and keep it moving, nah. He shifted his entire operation, production, branding, events. He planted his flag right in Jay Prince's backyard. And some say that wasn't just business, it was a direct challenge. Now to be fair, 50's reasons for relocating did make financial sense. He'd been vocal about New York's crushing tax hikes, saying straight up, I love New York, but I live in Houston now. The move saved him millions. Texas doesn't take a bite out of your earnings like New York does. And when you're running multiple businesses, TV shows, liquor brands, music ventures, every dollar counts. But here's what most people miss. list. Houston isn't just tax-friendly, it's a cultural goldmine, and 50 saw that before anyone else. The city's hip-hop scene is legendary. It birthed icons, set trends, and built a fiercely loyal fan base. For someone like 50, tapping into that meant fresh clout, fresh markets, and fresh influence, and he wasn't coming as a tourist, he was setting up shop for real. He made rounds at local liquor stores promoting Branson cognac, threw up events, built relationships. It wasn't just a flex, it was groundwork. 50 was embedding himself into the very culture J. Prince claimed to control. Then came the G-Unit Film Studio, a $20 million project 50 was about to launch in the city. That move alone sent a message. I'm not just living here, I'm investing here. I'm shaping this city's future. But guess what? That project didn't happen, at least not in Houston. Out of nowhere, 50 pulled the plug and moved it to Shreveport, Louisiana. Why? According to him, Shreveport had better infrastructure, but insiders say there was more to the story. Some claim 50 faced quiet resistance from certain Houston figures. Others say pressure was applied behind the scenes to make him fold, but 50 doesn't fold. He adapts, and while he might have moved the studio, he didn't leave Houston. Not even close, because around that same time, something major happened. Houston gave him the key to the city. Let that sink in. While J. Prince was allegedly plotting to push him out, the mayor of Houston was publicly praising him, calling him a role model, a philanthropist, a leader. They even gave him his own day, November 24th, 50 Cent Day. You could feel the shift happening. The city wasn't just accepting 50, they were celebrating him. And J. Prince, he had to watch it all unfold, knowing this wasn't just about taxes anymore. 50 wasn't in Houston to play nice. He was here to take over, and he had the keys to prove it.
This is somebody who is a philanthropist, rapper, artist, business person, you name it, used to live in another city up north, but found his way down south. This is one person who is now a Houstonian. I want to thank him. Look, he came to the city of Houston, but he didn't just come here to live. He has been helping out on so many causes in this city, and especially he has been in our high schools, turning our high school students into entrepreneurs with his Unity program. I've seen him firsthand. This city has been elevated because of his presence, and so today we have the honor of saying to him, he's our 2022 Grand Marshal. Give it up to Curtis 50 Jackson.
But just as 50's influence was rising, the streets were starting to talk. Because in Houston, power doesn't just come from handshakes and headlines. It comes from fear, from control, from who people really answer to. And that's where J. Prince's story takes a darker turn. In Houston, there's a rule, unwritten, unofficial, but deadly real. If you're an artist, a public figure, or anyone with clout, you better check in when you land. On the surface, it sounds harmless, a courtesy, a sign of respect, but behind the smiles and handshakes, some say it's something way darker, and nobody symbolizes that more than J. Prince. For years, J. Prince built a reputation as the street-level gatekeeper of Houston. He positioned himself as a protector of artists, a man who could keep you safe as long as you stayed in line. But let's keep it real. Protection doesn't mean much when it's only needed because of the same people offering it. That's why critics and former targets have called the whole check-in game exactly what it is. Extortion with a PR spin. Here's how it allegedly works. You land in Houston, J. Prince gets wind of it, his people reach out, sometimes before you even leave the airport, you're invited, more like required, to meet up, show respect, drop a little cash, maybe join a dice game, maybe buy some favors, all under the idea of keeping the peace. But if you don't check in, things get messy, fast. Just ask NBA YoungBoy. He didn't play the game when he visited Houston, and guess what? His place got hit, robbed, chains stolen, keys taken, valuables gone.
Right, I'm
gonna give rappers they jury
like me
back.
and YoungBoy, for example. He called me, right?
Recently?
I mean, he called me when that shit heated up.
Okay.
Right? And it was like somewhat of a misunderstanding.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he said what he had to say, I said what I had to say. A concept of how things should be when in reality they don't have to be that way, right?
Right.
But, you know, at the end of the day, I respect them for reaching out to me. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And, you know, I don't have to be his friend and I don't want to be his enemy.
Suddenly, a random IG video pops up, J. Prince calmly showing the stolen items, saying he has them, and that YB should reach out. Sounds helpful, right? Except YB wasn't buying it. He saw the whole thing as one big setup, a fake favor designed to trap him into giving up even more money. And 50? He made it very clear. He wasn't playing along either. When J. Prince allegedly sent his guys to make 50 check in, he didn't just refuse, he clowned the entire system, posted memes, laughed at the idea of needing permission to do business, and said flat out, out, "I got my own security, I don't answer to nobody." That didn't just ruffle feathers, it blew the whole nest apart. Because 50 wasn't just refusing to follow the street rules, he was challenging the man who made them. In public, with receipts, with smoke, with no fear. And while some saw it as bravery, others saw it as a declaration of war. The check-in system was never meant to be questioned. It was meant to be obeyed, quietly. But 50 doesn't do quiet. And what happened next would turn this Cold War into something way more dangerous. While Jay Prince was holding press runs and playing gatekeeper, 50 Cent was out here winning the crowd. And not just the fans, the city itself. Because while some people rule with fear, 50 started building something bigger: respect, loyalty, and impact. Let's talk facts. In 2022, just a year after moving to Houston, 50 was honored with the key to the city. Let that sink in. A New York rapper walks into Jay Prince's stronghold and the mayor hands him the keys. It wasn't just a gesture, it was a statement. Mayor Sylvester Turner didn't mince words. He called 50 a philanthropist, an entrepreneur, a man who uplifted the city's youth. He even gave him his own official holiday. November 24th is now 50 Cent Day in Houston. But this wasn't some celebrity PR stunt. This was earned. 50 had been putting in real work on the ground. Through his G Unity Foundation, he launched programs to turn high school students into entrepreneurs. Not rappers, not influencers, CEOs. He invested in the city. He partnered with local schools, helped kids create business plans, sat down with them face to face, taught them the same hustle that took him from South Jamaica to Forbes lists. And it didn't stop there. He started making moves in the sports world, inking sponsorship deals with the Rockets, the Astros, and the Texans, giving away turkeys on Thanksgiving, hosting charity events, raising millions for Houston Children's Charity. In 2023 alone, he donated over $850,000 worth of toys for Christmas, and during a gala event, auctioned off 2 giant champagne bottles to help raise $6 million for the city's most vulnerable kids. Everywhere you turned, 50 wasn't just making noise, he was making a difference. And you could feel the shift. The city started to embrace him, not just as a rapper, not just as a businessman, but as one of their own. Meanwhile, Jay Prince, he was starting to look like the old guard, still respected, but less celebrated, less necessary. And that's what really stung. Because in a city where power used to come from fear, now it was coming from influence, and 50 had it all. But power like that doesn't come without enemies. And as the 50's star kept rising, the street whispers started turning into something more dangerous. Dice games, murmurs of extortion, even death. What happened next shook Houston and the whole hip-hop world, and it started with one name: Takeoff. For decades, Jay Prince didn't just run Houston, he owned it. Not legally, not on paper, but through fear, reputation, and a network of loyal foot soldiers who enforced his word like law. To most outsiders, Jay Prince was the CEO of Rap-A-Lot Records, a music mogul, a street legend. But in Houston, he was something else entirely. They called it the no-fly zone, an invisible perimeter around the city that every rapper, manager, and entourage knew existed. If you flew into Houston and didn't check in, didn't pay respect, didn't play the game, you were a target. And whether it was rumor or reality, most people didn't take that risk. They checked in. They showed up to the dice games. They paid the tax. Because Jay Prince wasn't the kind of guy you wanted to test. Not when whispers of extortion, intimidation, and retaliation followed him like shadows. Behind the scenes, there were quiet stories, artists getting pressed, jewelry going missing, business deals suddenly falling through if the right people weren't involved. It was never on paper, but everyone in the industry knew the code. And those who didn't play along, they paid the price. Just ask Duke the jeweler. He came to Houston for a dice game, hit big, won over $100,000, but before he could even make it to his car, he was shot and robbed. He didn't survive. No arrest, no answers, just silence, and the city kept moving like nothing happened. Then came the Takeoff tragedy. One of the most beloved members of Migos, quiet, respectful, always out the way, but on November 1st, 2022, Takeoff was shot and killed during another dice game tied to Jay Prince's circle.
So niggas be throwing rocks and hiding their hand, right? They be throwing rocks and hiding their hand. And I don't like them kind of individuals. You know, and the truth of the matter is, you know, one can dance and different things in front of these different cameras and all that kind of shit. And when reality, the truth of the matter is, you know, nigga, you wasn't really right there with Takeoff when he was alive.
The official story? A scuffle broke out, shots were fired, and a stray bullet hit Takeoff. But not everyone bought that. Whispers started flying, that the whole thing was a setup, that Quavo and Takeoff hadn't checked in the right way, that someone had sent a message and it went way too far. And when Jay Prince finally spoke about it, his answers raised even more questions. He talked in riddles, deflected, defended his sons, but you could feel it. This wasn't just a tragedy, it was a crack in the foundation. Because for the first time, people started asking, what if the man claiming to protect the city was part of what made it dangerous?
You saw what happened. Allegedly, the young man who allegedly killed Takeoff, now he's dead and gone.
Yep.
And guess who wasn't afraid to say that out loud? 50 Cent. As the smoke from Takeoff's death settled, 50 started pushing even harder, calling out the extortion culture, mocking the check-in rules, posting clips, making noise, and daring anyone to stop him. And that noise? It was working. People started listening, talking, comparing. One man built fear. The other was building legacy. And Houston, it was starting to choose. But Jay Prince wasn't done yet, not by a long shot, because behind the scenes, he was allegedly planning something big. Something to push 50 Cent out of the picture permanently. And it all started when another name got dragged into the mess. Big Meech. By now, most artists would have backed off, stayed quiet, laid low. But 50 Cent, he did the opposite.
Jay Prince shared his opinion. Here's what he said. I tried to tell y'all that 50 is not to be played with, especially when you start jumping into his problems, uninvited, despite his relationship with you. Dude doesn't forgive betrays, and that's why Yayo gotta be careful with how he deals with 50 Cent. That's your man. You gotta stick with your man 100% at everything. Leave Big Meech alone, and he will be fine, even though the man gotta figure his way out now.
He saw the street politics, the tragedies, the fear, and instead of running from it, he started pulling back the curtain. Allegedly, 50 had been collecting receipts the whole time, DMs, texts, eyewitness accounts, and deals gone bad. He knew the check-in culture wasn't about safety, it was about money, power, and fear, and he wasn't just exposing it, he was daring anyone to prove him wrong. He went online and started trolling Jay Prince directly, posting cryptic captions, daring him to pull up, clowning the idea of anyone trying to make him pay for protection in a city where he was doing more good than harm. And the timing? Perfect. Right when Jay Prince was already under scrutiny for Takeoff's death, for Mob Ty's reputation, for the coincidences that kept ending in violence, 50 turned up the volume. He wasn't just a rapper anymore, he was the whistleblower with nothing to lose. He dropped hints that he had paperwork, that he could expose more, that this whole empire of respect and honor was built on fear and fraud. And he knew the streets were listening because the tide had already started to turn. People weren't afraid anymore, they were frustrated, tired of watching artists get extorted, robbed, or worse, just for stepping into a city. Meanwhile, 50 was hosting festivals, building businesses, giving back, putting young people on, and the streets noticed. But there's one more twist to this war. Just as things were heating up between 50 and Jay Prince, another heavyweight name entered the chat, Big Meech. Jay Prince and Big Meech go way back. And when 50 started working on that BMF series, tensions reportedly started to rise, fast. Some sources say Jay Prince didn't like how 50 was portraying certain things. Others claim it was never about the show, it was about loyalty. And when Meech's people felt disrespected, Jay Prince allegedly stood behind them. That's when things started getting serious. Word on the street is some people close to Jay Prince tried to intimidate 50, warning him to back off BMF and stay in his lane. But if there's one thing 50 doesn't do, it's fold under pressure. He doubled down, kept filming, kept promoting, kept firing shots at anyone who tried to silence him. And now, the war is fully out in the open. No more hints, no more low-key shade. 50's making it clear he's not just trying to expose the check-in culture, he's trying to burn it to the ground. The only question left, Misano, is how far Jay Prince is willing to go to protect what's his. This ain't just a rap feud. This is power versus pressure, legacy versus fear, and right now 50 Cent isn't just fighting for himself, he's calling out a system that's ruled Houston streets for years. He's doing what most won't, saying out loud what everybody whispers behind the scenes. But here's the million-dollar question. How far will this go? Is Jay Prince really losing his grip on the city he once ruled, or is 50 underestimating just how deep those mob ties run? One wrong move, one bad headline, one silent setup, and everything could flip in a second. So what do you think? Should 50 keep going at Jay Prince like this, or is he getting too close to a line no one's supposed to cross?